Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Wellness Wednesdays with me, Yehuda Shamroth. I was sick last week. Sorry, I still have a little bit of a stuffed up nose. Omicron, of course. Everybody is getting the resurgence over and over of getting reinfected. That's what today's topic is about, is the update on COVID-19 and lessons that we've learned. I have a special guest later on that I'll bring in on a recording, Mr. Alan Freishtat, who is actually a personal trainer and a wellness coach, emotional behavioral therapy coach. And he has his very distinct ideas on the what's going on with the COVID too, as well how we can learn some lessons from it and how we can change things for the future. We do know that the integrative health field is working towards a genuine revolution in healthcare. We really do know this. I mean, with all the complaints that are going on, with all the problems we're having, all the misinformation we have about what's going on with COVID, all the wars, the fights. We have one side that's anti-vax and anti-government and conspiracy theory, and the other side is, purely the straight medical model that, of course, clearly is not working at this point because they're sort of chasing their own tail, trying to figure out how to take care of these people, and the government overbearing rules and regulations, people being forced to do what they don't want to do. I don't want to talk about whether or not you should get vaccinated. I don't want to talk about whether or not this is a real thing. First of all, number one, COVID is a real thing. So those people can go get lost as far as I'm concerned. If they were to tell people that there's nobody still in the hospitals, that it's a trumped up, invented situation, because it is not invented at all. We do know that the novel coronavirus, as they call it, it's a SARS virus. It's a variation of the SARS virus. It continues. It started back in China in 2019. That's why it's called COVID-19. And it continues to impact our lives today. And it's become, of course, a tireless global pandemic. And people are hoping that it's winding down, but we've said this before. It comes back in different forms and different variants. So it could be quite a while till we really get over this. I remember my daughter, who's a physical therapist, said to me, "Mom, this is going to go on for 5 years." And I said, "I hope not." I said, "Don't even say that. I can't cope with that possibility." But you know what? We're in year 2 right now, and we're chasing our tails, as I said, and people don't really know what to do or who to turn to. But we do have to get a grip on ourselves, and we don't know if we take very good care of ourselves. I've said this in many, many webinars before. Every doctor out there who's worth his or her salt knows that what's going on right now is not anybody's fault, unless you want to blame the Chinese for letting it slip out of their laboratory. Could be. I really kind of believe that theory, but I'm not here to discuss that necessarily. But I do feel like currently there are so many people that are still affected by this disease in so many levels that I've talked to you many times, and you can read about it every day. We do know that this crazy pneumonia that was detected in Wuhan, China, was the first reported by the World Health Organization back in December 2019, and the outbreak was declared a public emergency by January 30th, so it didn't take very long. So I'd like to look at the Johns Hopkins information sites, because they have the most current sites and statistics about how many people are getting COVID throughout the whole world and how many people had died from it and things. And what we really want to listen to is not so much every day how many people have it now and how many people have it now. We want to find out, we really care, we care about that obviously, but we want to see statistically how many people are actually dying from the disease. And what we see are less people are dying from it than before. And we do know that the pre-existing conditions of obesity, heart disease, and diabetes are key players in affecting how people will obtain or receive this illness, and how they will survive from it or not. So that's a little bit what we're talking about today. And Alan wrote an article in the Jerusalem Post about this, about how he feels that the medical community has sort of failed us on a lot of levels by not insisting that we be healthy people to begin with. So we need to know that people make their own choices, including me, including you. We know in here what the right thing to do is. We don't always implement that. We don't always do that. But we do know that we have to get a handle on it to make sure that we prevent further deaths. It says there are currently 727,000 deaths linked to COVID-19 just in the U.S. alone. And you can look at the statistics of Johns Hopkins University to see what it is worldwide. So we do want to make sure we work closely with the medical community, even if we don't agree with it, because the CDC does set the standard and the pace for everything that happens in the world. We know it's a global pandemic, started in 2020. And we have the clinical presentation, of course, is the transmission through the nose, through the respiratory tract, and then it affects the respiratory tract. And the incubation period is thought to be about 14 days. That hasn't changed, with an average of 4 to 5 days from exposure to the symptoms, the onset of the symptoms. So, and one study reports that 95% of the people who have COVID-19 will develop symptoms within about 11 days. So this is why the quarantine is usually at least 7 days or even longer. It was 2 weeks in Israel for a very long time, and they were preventing people from coming in the country. And then when you come in the country, you are in quarantine for 2 weeks. They have lessened that now to 24 hours in some cases if you're vaccinated. And again, I'm not here to talk about pro-vaccination or anti-vaccination. The fact of the matter is people are being vaccinated, and they the question is, no, do we keep vaccinating people? I'm not sure I agree with that. But I do know that the people who are out there, they feel comfortable. I'm one of them. I felt comfortable getting vaccines. I feel like it was my part that I could play in keeping my own self protected, my family protected, and I work with patients every single day. So I have to do what I can to follow the guidelines and regulations of the CDC. Now, I don't think everybody's lying to us, but there is a big push, a political push. There's an agenda out there. I don't know why or where. Some big brother situation going on where they want to control the world. This is what is happening on a lot of levels. It is not just with this, as with the liberal agenda out there. It's with the financial situations out there. There is some kind of movement afoot to kind of control people. I don't really know what it is, but I know that this is politics plays a huge role, which is really confusing a lot of people as to what to do next and how to protect themselves. They don't know who to trust. They don't know who to look to. So the only thing you can do is look to yourself, take care of yourself, and eat right and sleep right and to do the right things in terms of your family's situation. Keep yourself healthy as possible. Because the situation, no matter which strain you have, whether you have the Delta variant or whether you have the Omicron or the original, here's what you get. You have the COVID-19 illnesses, they range from mild, moderate to severe. We still have several people in the hospitals. My daughter, again, my physical therapist daughter is at Hadassah Hospital in Jerusalem every day, and she says she's been going into the COVID wards and they're packed. And there are people that are very, very sick, but they're not dying like they were because they have the Omicron variant. And that's the good news, is that even though they're very severely ill, the wards are still loaded with people. So don't think it went away, and don't think that it went that it's getting too much less, because don't be cavalier. In other words, do whatever you can to protect yourself, and that's up to everybody individually. And you have to think about other people too. You can't just think about yourself. Well, I refuse to wear a mask and I refuse to get. All right, that's an individual choice. But when you're working with groups of people, masses of people, I would not want to have to be the people, the organizations to make these rules and these guidelines. I just wouldn't, because whatever you do is wrong. If they tell people wear a mask, get vaccinated, everybody's complaining and everybody's having a riot about it. If they don't do anything and say, hey, everybody, just let's be free for all, do what you want. Those would be the first organizations that would be targeted. The CDC and the medical establishments out there, the departments of health. They would be the first persons to be attacked. So they can't win in this situation. Although, again, heavily politicized, which is really a shame. It's really a shame. That's all I can say. I'm not going to say what side I'm on. I think you can probably tell I'm a little bit confused myself about certain things, but I do know we want to take care of these people as they come in, when they present with fever, chills, cough, shortness of breath, fatigue, muscle aches and pains, headaches, loss of taste or smell. I have a loss of taste right now, but I have a stuffed up nose. I did actually have Omicron. I was sick last week. That's why I canceled last week's Wednesdays. But congestion, runny nose, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea. And then what they call the long hauler syndrome, which is people having these symptoms even for many months afterwards. So this is a no joke situation. We have to really learn how to take the bull by the horns and take care of ourselves, and not hold back treatments that people need, which I'll talk about in a minute. We know that what causes the biggest problem for people with respiratory stuff is something called a cytokine storm. Now, a cytokine is something, I got some slides here. Hold on a minute. I think I do have a slide on cytokine storm. Let's do this. Where are my? All right. I don't know where my slides are. Holy smokes. Share. Here they are. Share. I can't figure this out. I do it every week. How about that? Sharing. Oh. Let's try this again. Share screen. Here we are. Okay, I'm sorry. Here we are. We don't. Yeah, I did it. Yehudis, you can do it. Okay. So what is a cytokine storm anyway? Cytokines are actually immune aspects of our body that help fight infection. But what happens is it gets overactive and starts to attack us a little bit like an autoimmune disease. So it attacks specifically the lungs in this situation. And then if it gets very bad, it goes to multiple organ disorders. So it's a phenomenon that's first described in medical literature only in 1993. And it's an uncontrolled inflammatory response caused by excessive number of small proteins called cytokines. So, but we do know there are cytokines, we need them because they play a critical role in activating our immune response. And so they promote inflammation to just reject a foreign body and foreign germs and foreign substances. But if they aggregate too much together, you have what's called a storm, and too many are released, and it starts to attack the body. And that's where people become very, very sick. We see that there are a couple stages of COVID infection. Okay, we have stage 1 where you're asymptomatic. We talked about this before. It could take up to 14 days to be symptomatic. So this is why when you're on traveling, you want to test yourself before you go and test yourself when you get back. And you want to try to keep yourself distant from people for a few days. You don't always have to follow the regulations. I mean, you should follow the law for sure. But if it's not clear what to do, I just it makes sense to me to stay away from people for a few days after you've traveled or been through big groups of people at a wedding or something like that, because you want to make sure, or if you have a sick relative. I have my sister-in-law has a mother who's 96 years old, and she doesn't go, my sister-in-law herself doesn't go to big crowds anymore because she wants to visit her mother on a regular basis. So how do we know whether she's carrying it, whether she's not, whether she's vaccinated or not? Anybody can carry it in their nasal passages and they can sneeze it onto someone else. Okay, so you have an asymptomatic phase. You can have a non-severe symptoms like the cold and the flus and blow your nose and things, and then it can go into the severe respiratory inflammatory stage, and then that's where you have that cytokine storm, making you very, very sick, and many people have died from this. So how do we know how often we should be tested for something like this? Again, a big question. It depends on country to country and region to region. Okay. So the National Institutes of Health have published guidelines, okay, on, of course, healthcare workers should be tested, anybody employed in public safety, anybody who was with a predisposition to respiratory illness like asthma, anybody older than 60 years old, people with underlying medical conditions, sometimes pregnant women should be tested, and but the idea of testing the children and testing young, healthy people, we don't know that that's really necessary anymore. I think they kind of really overdid that one. Again, I'm not here to talk politics because I'm not going to say they're wrong and they were bad. Look, mistakes have been made, okay, and we hope we can just learn from it and move on. Okay, when we talk about treatments of what's available, there's an organization out there called the FLCCC. Now, what is the FLCCC? And of course, I knew that by heart, and now I don't. One second, I have it here. It's an organization of medical people who are, here we go. Frontline COVID Critical Care Alliance, FLCCC, the Frontline Critical Care Alliance. These are doctors and nurses and medical people who are saying, look, the government is stepping in too harshly and telling us what to do and what not to do. We really feel like there are some treatments out there that people are being withheld from, and we don't agree. So these organizations, these people are growing in numbers in the thousands and thousands and thousands. In fact, they just had a big gathering at the mall in Washington, D.C., where there's a couple of 100,000 people there to hear what they had to say. And of course, there are certain things like ivermectin and NAC and Plaquenil and erythromycin, which are basics to people who are very, very sick in the hospitals. And if you're withheld from these kinds of treatments, you could die. So there are political things keeping people from these access to these, and we don't really know why. I just want to say that I agree with this organization. I probably would belong to it if I was working in America anymore. But we do know that whatever's out there, we should give to the people if it's known to be good. I'll talk a minute about ivermectin and why it's so controversial. I'll talk about each one of these and just tell you a little bit about each one. But basically, for people who are very, very sick, there's this whole protocol out there that the hospitals are giving to people. So don't think they're not doing anything. They're saying people die every day because they're not being treated and they're being ignored, and depending on what race they are, this is true. Certain races are predisposed to certain kinds of illnesses. And if you go to the outlying areas in the country, any country in the world, and you're going to find people who are less healthy. And the reason why they're not doing well is because they're less healthy people who aren't eating right anyway, and they're not getting good medical care anyway, and they're predisposition to these problems anyway. So to say that people are selectively being held from care, that's where I don't agree. I think that it's difficult to treat everybody everywhere all over the world. It's just impossible. But if you are lucky enough to be in a region where you have a hospital to take care of you when you're very sick, they're going to give you steroids. They're going to give you ivermectin, hopefully. They're going to give you plasma replacements, monoclonal antibodies, interferons, cytokine inhibitors, blood filtration systems, stem cells, anticoagulants, vitamins and minerals, including vitamin C and D and zinc, which we all like to talk about. So you should know that this is not everywhere widespread, that we're just purposely letting people drop like flies because we don't feel like giving them. There are places that are withholding. You can go on the internet, and I have a lot of friends who feel like they have need to educate me by sending me videos all day long. I don't have all day long, number one, to watch videos. It's nice that they have that time to watch videos. They have something to say against everything I believe in and everything because I'm pretty heavily medical still, and I feel like I'm still defending the medical community to a certain degree. I feel like if anybody's to blame, it's the governments. They're not consistent, and they're not regulating. They're medical people. Why are they regulating medicine? But in any case, so if you want to educate yourself, get on the internet, and you can watch your hours and hours of these videos too, and you can turn yourself any direction you want. Let's just talk about what can we do. Let's just talk about what can we do. We can't control the government. We can't control the medical community. We just want to talk about the fact that when you do have natural immunity, the studies are showing now natural immunity, all the studies now, even the CDC is admitting that natural immunity is more effective in fighting against this disease. Okay, so vaccines are good, and they've had their place, and a lot of people have been saved by them. And I'm hoping that I'm one of those people, because I've gotten COVID twice now already, and I didn't have such a bad time of it. And I don't have any pre-existing conditions necessarily, but I am over 60 and I'm a little overweight. So it's possible that I could have gotten very, very sick, but I didn't. And maybe it's because of the vaccines. I'm hoping that's what it was. But we just want you to know that there's no replacement for natural immunity. So if you do get it, take good care of yourself, get over it, and know that if you tested yourself in your immune system, you'd probably find that you're very well protected. Okay, I want to get to the point where we can watch Alan's video, because he's very interesting. And he has definite ideas of what we should do. Okay, treatments. Treatments, again, all those medical treatments we talked about, ivermectin, the vitamins. I'm going to go through that a second. Ivermectin, I just want to make a special mention about that. So ivermectin is actually an I want to say antiviral, that's not correct. It is a drug that kills parasites, okay, antiparasitic. And it's been used in animals for many, many, many years, and they found that it's actually very anti-inflammatory, very anti-inflammatory. So they thought of using it on humans, and sure enough, people have been getting well by using ivermectin. So, of course, the FDA doesn't want to approve it for this use. And again, this is where the politics come in. I'm not going to say, I can't get involved in it. I don't really understand. But it is an antiparasitic, and it does have antiviral and anti-inflammatory properties. So it's been tested all over the world, and now the results are in pretty much. It's hard to deny anymore that it is a very, very good drug, and people should have access. I can tell you that in Israel alone, it's on the black market around here, and people are selling it from this house in this neighborhood. You can get it if you want to. So take it. Do you think that you can take it? They're dangerous to every single drug. Just so you know that whatever drug you take for the first time, you have a possibility of having a bad reaction to it. And then make sure you get it from a trusted source, because if you don't, it can be very highly toxic. Okay, just letting you know, figure out where it's coming from. Because if it's not FDA approved or approved in somewhere, and you're getting it on the black market, people are buying it from China and getting it in bulk, and I don't know what. I would take it if I had to. I would. But I'm not going to sell it, because there's plenty of other people out here. I'm not trying to make money from people anyway. So I'm not going to sell it. But I think if people, I thought about having it in my clinic just to have it available for people, but people can get it on their own. So I'm not going to do that anymore. And if you're going to take ivermectin, they say 0.2 milligrams per kilogram. And then if you're really sick, you'll be on prednisones and that kind of stuff too. But hopefully you don't need that stuff. Okay, what else do I want to say about ivermectin? Nothing. Okay, so we know that. Let's talk about nutrition, and I'll get to these supplements in a minute. A lot of these things haven't changed, by the way. Recommendations of supplements are still the same, and the distancing and the hand washing, it's all the same. So just keep doing what you're doing. We want to talk a little bit about nutrition, and this is where Alan comes in. He talks about how the government or the medical community is not up to date on nutrition, and the medical community is not up to date on getting people into a healthier state. And that's why we're here. We're sort of sitting ducks in the first place by coming into this time in history with the most advanced science we have in the whole wide world ever in history, and we have the most epidemic of obesity, heart disease, diabetes. These are the people who are getting very, very sick. Okay, so nutrition. We know nutrition plays a very critical role in helping fight disease and activate our body's defenses at every stage of our lives. We've been researching COVID-19 to see how the virus affects our health defenses. And it's, we do know it's much more contagious. And it could cause, again, severe breathing problems, just if you're home, blood clots, gastrointestinal, everything. So we want to go on a diet. We want to stay on a way of eating. Don't call it a diet if you don't want to call it a diet. It's the healthiest part of eating you can. All whole foods, all whole grains, no processed foods, no starches and sugars, and maybe not even any dairy, some limited meat, medium protein. That's why all these diets are becoming very popular right now, like the keto diet and the vegan diet and the vegan diets. They're all probably the way to go in this generation because we want to make sure we decrease inflammation in our body and decrease our weight and increase our health. That's the bottom line. So I love Dr. William Li because I learn a lot from him. And he is a scientist and a doctor, and he researches food as medicine. So we do know food is medicine. It isn't as medicine. It is medicine. It's actually better than medicine because food is a biological source, according to Dr. Mark Hyman. It's a biological force that drives all biochemistry in your body. So everything we ingest derives everything from our digestion to our metabolism to our elimination to everything, the development of all the hormones in our body, everything. It's all because of the food we eat. So you are what you eat. So here is what Dr. Hyman says, that he believes that we have to target the food industries in order to change things. Because the sooner they stop making processed foods and added sugars to everything and growing things in soil that is depleted of any nutrients, we're eating this stuff and we're eating it by the droves. And I even look at Israel. It used to be a much healthier country, I feel. And of course, there's the Mediterranean diet that everybody likes to say is such a great thing. And we're living by that because it's mostly fruits and vegetables and minimal meats and minimal processed stuff. But the truth is here, if you walk along the grocery stores, it's rows and rows and rows of processed, really kind of garbage when you think about it. All the little packaged foods, and they're yummy and they're great, but they're added and loaded with additives and loaded with dyes and loaded with, it's just no nutrition at all, basically. And it can set you up for inflammation, as we've talked about ad nauseum. So let me just say that we want to, this is this is a slide by Dr. Lee. I'm going to talk about that in a second. But Dr. Hyman, he says there are barriers to this kind of thinking, to push to a healthier way of lifestyle, because there are marginalized communities that don't get the information. There are politics that get in the way. The food giants get in the way. The pharmaceutical companies get in the way. We have a big uphill battle to fight to get to where we really open the eyes of everybody and of every age to take better care of their health and stop turning towards junk food, basically, and alcohol and other things. So, and he says, Dr. Mark Hyman, he believes that all eaters, communities, and ecosystems can benefit from regenerative power of food if we have good, healthy food. He believes in regeneration of your body and also the climate and the earth and ecosystems and everything. And we have to really put our whole world back into balance. He looks at it from a world view. Okay, so back to Dr. Lee. So he says, as we continue to navigate the pandemic, it is important to focus on what we're eating. Just like Dr. Hyman, they all feel the same way. I'm surprised they don't write books together. He wrote a book on Eat to Beat Disease. I reference it very, very, very often. Eat to Beat Disease. You can find him on the internet. You can find him anywhere. He's just an amazing person. And again, he's a physician. He's a researcher. He's a chemist. He's He's incredible. He prescribes food to people. Okay, this is something that the medical community is really not used to at all. Write a prescription. Eat 2 cups of blueberries today as part of your medical prescriptions. Wouldn't that be nice? But this is where we're headed, hopefully. Okay, so he says focus on boosting your immune system. That's all we can do right now. So let me just tell you the 10 things that he feels are the most important things to focus on. Okay, blackberries. Okay, blackberries are a great source of vitamin C and dietary fiber, and they're great for your gut bacteria, which means they're great for immunity. And because we know that 80% of the immune system is found in the small intestine. Okay. I thought this is a little bit out of order. Oyster sauce. We don't eat oysters in the Jewish world, but for the people out there watching that are not kosher, oysters is used for sauces in Chinese food and actually made from oysters itself. And science have shown that extracts made from oysters can boost healthy immune response and calm inflammation at the same time. Green tea. Green tea. Where's my green tea? I know all about green tea. A natural substance in green tea is called EGCG. Doesn't matter, but there's something in green tea. It calms inflammation and it helps reset the immune system to healthy levels. Tomatoes. Tomatoes are a great source of vitamin C, and you can eat tomatoes whole and cook them, enjoy them. And tomatoes are just really good. They're anti-inflammatory to certain people. Other people can't take them for arthritic reasons. Because it does cause sometimes it can aggravate arthritic symptoms. But tomatoes have lycopene and other kinds of wonderful, wonderful natural chemicals that are anti-inflammatory. Pecans. I thought that was interesting because I love pecans. They're packed with fiber and omega-3s that support immunity. Okay. Then mushrooms are one of my all-time favorites. Where is that? The mushrooms. Oh, I'm missing a page. Let's see. Let's look over here. Mushrooms, they are loaded with protective antibodies, and they ward off infection. It helps promote antibodies to fight infection in your body. And mushrooms of all types. You can eat the white mushrooms, the bell mushrooms, the Chinese mushrooms, anything. And the stems also have the same amount of healing power that the caps do. So eat your mushrooms every day. I do. I actually do. Broccoli sprouts. It's hard to get broccoli sprouts. I find I can get sprouts of all kinds, but it's very hard to get the broccoli seeds here in Israel for some reason. But even broccoli, that will pump up your immune defense against viruses. It's antiviral. Eat your broccoli every day, especially raw. EVU. What is EVU? It's extra virgin olive oil. EVU. It ramps up the number of immune cells in your body and activates them. So you can really, olive oil is like the best oil out there. We talk about healthy fats all the time. This is the best one, the main one on the list. Pomegranate juice helps by blocking the viruses that fight and to help it fight infection. So it blocks your viruses. So take pomegranate juice and make sure it's a very good brand with no sugar. It's a health food, a health food store one. No, don't buy the one that's added sugars like a soda drink. And finally, blueberries. They ramp up the cells that get rid of the infected cells. So once the body detects infection, blueberries are very antioxidant and fight infection very well too. So you can just rely on these foods. Again, the supplements haven't changed too much. If you want to take ivermectin, go get it from your local source, but make sure it's a good one, okay? Vitamin C is crucial for healing of tissues. 1,000 to 2,000. It's way higher doses than we ever used to prescribe or take, but now it's important. Vitamin C, 1,000 to 2,000 milligrams a day. Vitamin D3, 1,000 to 4,000 units a day. You can have liquid D3. It's a little bit better absorbed in your system. Zinc, at least 20 milligrams a day. Now, quercetin is a natural anti-inflammatory. It's found in most red vegetables, but you can buy it. It says a half a teaspoon a day here, but I believe the dosage is probably 50 to 100 milligrams a day if you can get that in pill form. And if look for one from iHerb or somewhere else where everything's all in one pill, I think I'd become very rich if I could put vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, and quercetin all in one pill. I think you can get 3 out of the 4, which is better because it's just too hard to take all these supplements every day. And you can't always, people maintain this. People cannot always maintain this, but if you can do this every day, it's a great preventative in addition to eating healthy, in addition to avoiding junk foods, in addition to avoiding extra sugars and processed foods and eating all the healthiest stuff you can. Melatonin, they're finding now it's very anti-inflammatory. And of course, probiotics will keep the digestive system up to par and getting rid of the bad bacteria so that the good bacteria override them. And of course, again, we mentioned that the immune system is found in the small intestine largely. And I'm sorry, but this is blurry. But again, regular precautions, like always. Wash your hands. Don't cough into your hand. Cough into your arm, please. I see doctors and nurses do this every day. I want to scream because then you're shaking hands with people or you're touching people. Just cough or sneeze into your arm. Just simple. Don't touch anything about your hand. It says avoid touching your face. So that's not always easy to do, but if you do, wash your hands a lot. Okay, keep your surfaces clean. Maybe not hug and handshake for a while. Just let's keep that going for a little while longer and keep a safe distance. They say 2 meters per person. And notice I don't have wear your mask here because that's also very controversial, and I'm not so sure it really works. I know that I wore a mask for 30 years in the operating room, and they have special masks, and this is why they worked. There are special filters and special layers. We don't have those, but I do like to wear my mask truthfully wherever I go because I don't have to wear lipstick, no, but because I really feel like it's a natural barrier. At least if somebody's standing next to me at the grocery line and they're sneezing, okay, I have a little of extra protection. It may not protect me from corona or Delta or Omicron, but it is protecting me from getting their spray in my face, and that's it. So just without further ado, I want to bring on my guest speaker by recording. His name is Alan Freishtat. He is an ACE certified personal fitness trainer. He's a certified wellness coach. He is a graduate of Cornell University and in a topic called plant-based nutrition. Additionally, Alan has contributed articles as a health and lifestyle columnist to Hamodia International and the Jerusalem Post, Yeshiva World News, and the OU Shabbat Shalom newsletter. He has his own private practice in Jerusalem, Israel, and you could find him on the board of advisors and Find a Trainer in Israel. He will help get you right on track if you live in the Jerusalem area or the surrounding area. I will have his website on the sidebar here. And without further ado, let's listen to Alan. Good morning, Alan. Thank you so much for joining me. It's beautiful Jerusalem morning, Friday morning.
Good morning, Yehudis, and thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, this is great. You know, we have so much going on with Corona, and I know that you are very involved in healthcare and wellness and have been for so many years. And I was just reviewing your article in the Jerusalem Post, which we will share in our comments so people can read it. So can you just tell us about what inspired you to write that article about Corona? Like, did something particularly happen, or did you just see a series of events or people that made you realize that we need to change the direction in which we're helping people heal?
Well, Corona is a culmination of, let's say, the results of Corona are a culmination of decades of Western society not taking care of their health. And what do I mean by that? If you look at the CDC, even told us early on that 94% of Corona deaths in the United States of America are not really from Corona. They're from comorbidities. So whether a person has type 2 diabetes, high blood pressure, heart disease, obesity, these are the things that are actually the cause of death in 94% of what they're calling Corona deaths. And, you know, it makes us have to take some pause and to think, well, what's going on here? As I wrote in the op-ed, very early on, I was just watching a segment from Fox News, and we're going back almost 2 years now, where they had an epidemiologist on who was saying that the United States is in for a very rough time. And the anchor woman said, well, why do you say that? And he said, because the obesity epidemic in this country is out of control. And because of that, there's going to be a very, unfortunately, mass amount of death and you know, critical illness. And it proved to be absolutely true. And, you know, most of these things, most of these comorbidities that people have are preventable illness. And in many cases, it's actually reversible illness. And this is where, as I wrote in the op-ed, this is where modern medicine has fallen a bit short. We sort of treat chronic disease and autoimmune disease as something to be managed, not to be reversed and cured. And unfortunately,
or prevented.
Well, that's I was about to say, and you know, the main thing is that nobody puts resources, time, money into prevention, especially when it comes to cancer. Especially when it comes to cancer, okay, you know, we would be a lot better off if we worked on the preventative end than trying to do something after we have it. So, Corona just sort of brought this to the peak, and the studies that came out lately, healthcare workers in 6 countries, for instance, they wanted to see what their diets were. And these are people that were treating Corona day and night, day and night, day and night. And they checked the diet. Yeah, and they checked the diets of these people. And they found that 73% less possibility of getting Corona I don't want to say getting Corona, but getting moderate to severe Corona in those who ate whole food plant-based diets. 59% less chance for pescatarians. That's like a whole food plant-based diet where they've added fish. Okay. And then there's everybody else. And, what does that tell you? And then we saw other studies where people who were eating whole food plant-based diets were 41% chance less of even getting Corona than those who weren't. And these are unbelievable things. And you have to start looking inside the numbers. What's that telling us? And it's telling us all about our immune system. You take care of your immune system is going to take care of yours. But if we lead a Western lifestyle, meaning we are sedentary, we eat a diet full of ultra-processed foods, an abundance of animal foods, an abundance of added oils, okay? And we lead that lifestyle, and then let's throw into the equation that people don't sleep anymore. We're supposed to get 7, 8, 9 hours of sleep a night. Before the invention of the electric light bulb, people were sleeping in the winter 10, 11 hours at night. So we don't do that anymore. Everybody's in everybody else's time zone, and rapid communication, internet, and WhatsApp, and we can talk to people all over the world all the time. We don't sleep. Also very, very bad for the immune system. Certainly substance abuse is terrible for the immune system. So whether it's alcohol or tobacco or other things, these are all things that are playing into what ends up later in life as being, the almost likelihood that we're going to get one or more chronic diseases. I saw a statistic recently, which was really frightening, that in the United States of America, if you look at the over 50 population, okay, most of that population is on at least one prescription drug, and half that population is on 2 or more. And why? Because we don't take care of ourselves.
Right, and we have to sort of either come to a screeching halt and start over, or we have to somehow gradually work this in, because I am, I fall into both worlds, as you know, being a nurse anesthetist for 30 years, and then also being always towards what else we can do to make ourselves healthier. And the more I got into alternative medicine, I got into the real healthcare prevention aspect of it when I started studying alternative medicine, which also always functions and focuses on prevention and healthy lifestyle and eating and things. And so as a nurse, I was always very healthy minded and things. But my kids always had vegetable soup and a really well balanced meal and stuff, but I had no problem with them having the bags of chips and their mac and wax. I mean, it didn't occur to me. I'm just telling you that I was a good, healthy mother and nurse, but I wouldn't do that now. You know what I'm saying? So
you've hit on the main point here.
Yeah.
Because what's lacking is education.
There you go. That's what we go to do.
One of the things when I took the course through Cornell University 3 years ago, about using plant-based nutrition to prevent and reverse disease, was they were talking about how paradigms are formed. And these are things that are not formed in a day. Paradigms are formed over decades and decades and decades. And they become ingrained and they become truth, even if they're not. And when you grow up, as you and I both grew up, probably in the same period of time, when we were in elementary school, the 4 food groups were, eat a lot of meat, eat a lot of dairy, have some vegetables, and drink a lot of milk. Okay, and these are things that are forced into us. But the truth is that all of these things have a root. They go back to the fact that there are financial interests involved. Okay, whether it's big food or big pharma, and the United States Department of Agriculture, and I think it's important that people have someone to fend for their cause, and I think the farmers need the USDA. But on the other hand, that's the same organization that's responsible for telling us what we should be eating. and you have the same person who's trying to help the farmers, and the same person is telling us what we should be eating, and that's an inherent conflict of interest. So you get these food pyramids and all these other recommendations from government, which are just out to lunch, quite frankly. Okay.
Right, they're more concerned about the income and also even if they started off with good intentions, like feeding the masses kind of thing, that's also a cheaper outlook on things. I can tell you that every week after week after week on this webinar, I feel like I'm repeating myself, and I'm maybe trying to convince myself to, but no, I've changed myself so much over the years. But just to get rid of processed foods and extra sugar and get a good night's sleep and all the things I say to people that come to me in the treatment, you have to do all the things your mother told you to do. Get a good night's sleep, drink a lot of water, eat your vegetables. I said, you're paying me to tell you this, and that's fine. I don't mind. You should know those are basic, but they really weren't ingrained in a way that they should have been. And we do have to start a re-education process for people. And if you have any ideas on what, I mean, you and I are individuals, and this is a very good thing, because we do reach a lot of people, thank God. But beyond that, what else can you think we can do as individuals, or should we get together and do something? And do you have any ideas about this?
Well, look, one of the things that we do here at the Wellness Clinic is we treat root causes. We don't treat symptoms. And I think the same applies to exactly what we're talking about. And we live in a society where fast and easy sort of paves the way people do things. And we live in a society where it's very easy to walk into the supermarket and buy T-Volt corn schnitzels and throw them in a toaster oven, or buy a jar of sauce that is so full of oils and different sugars, that there's hardly any tomatoes in it. Michael Pollan talks about the inner shelves of the grocery store, and he said that the food is on the outer perimeter. That's when you find the fresh produce and the fresh fruit. But most of what's in the grocery store are simply food-like edible substances. It's not food. And this is what everybody is
like
eating.
Food flavored substances. Food flavored, yeah. No, it's always been like that.
Yeah,
It always bothered me when I would see a juice like orange flavored juice, and I think, well, even in the days before I was super aware, I'd say, why would I want to drink something that's orange flavored? What does that even mean?
So to undo all this, like I said, education is the key. The how, things have changed an awful lot in the last 10 years. There are people who are doing very grandiose projects that have been successful, and there's people who are working one at a time kind of projects. I'm a little guy. I've got a free newsletter that goes out twice a month, and yes, I've been writing newspaper columns for about 12, 13 years already, different publications on and off. And we try to get the word out, and we do the best we can. If you look at the larger projects, a documentary which came out 10 years ago, Forks Over Knives, really turned the world upside down.
Yeah.
Okay. Lately, the film The Game Changers ended up being the most widely watched documentary on Netflix. It was the most downloaded documentary on iTunes when it came out, and these things have a tremendous effect on people.
So can we just stop here and this recommendation? Are you making this recommendation for people to watch this then? These two?
I can tell you right now.
What would you recommend people look at to start getting going?
Forks Over Knives, which if you go to their website now, I believe they have now made the download free. Forks Over Knives, again, it's 10 years old, but it's entirely an accurate presentation. There's another one called What the Health, which gives you a good view into what mainstream medicine and mainstream healthcare, it's really sick care, but they call it healthcare, is doing. There's a wonderful, wonderful documentary that came out 2 years ago called Code Blue about Dr. Sarai Stanchek and her journey, how she cured herself of multiple sclerosis. And it's very inspiring and full of information. The Game Changers is a masterpiece. It's so well done, and it's not only is it informational, it's entertaining at the same time. And there's others, and if we're on this list already, if you want to read books, read Dean Ornish's Undo It, read the China Study. These are all very, very important books to read. Okay, there's others. Dr. Stanchek's book, What's Missing from Modern Medicine. Very, very good book. Dr. Brooke Goldner has a great book called Goodbye Lupus, and her second book, Goodbye Autoimmune Disease. And basically what all of these things do is they teach people the precepts of what we call lifestyle medicine. And lifestyle medicine works. And more physicians all over the world, unfortunately not enough here in Israel, but all over the world, have incorporated lifestyle medicine into their practice. Okay, a doctor can give metformin or glucophage or something to lower an A1C, and they will lower the A1C by 2 points in a type 2 diabetic. In my clinic, we have lowered A1C by 6, 7, and 8 points in different people over the years, and that's with no medication. So what works better? I tell people ask me all the time, my doctor said I should go on a statin to lower cholesterol. And I say, well, you know, it could be you do need the statin right now, but please keep in mind that a statin, according to the best meta-analysis that we have now, can lower the risk of early mortalities from stroke and heart attack by 9%, which is meaningful. But on the other hand, you can do a program like we do here in Wellness Clinic, and other people do also, of lifestyle medicine, and we can lower that chance of heart attack and stroke by 85%. So which one do you want?
Wow.
And our side effects are only energy, feeling well, being happy.
And getting good night's sleep. Listen, we don't have that much more time left, but if you wanted to tell people how they can reach you and how they can benefit from you, do you treat people internationally by telemedicine as well?
Yes, we do. We have clients really Canada, United States, Europe, England, I have small ways in Melbourne. Even here within Israel, some people have a hard time coming to Jerusalem, in Beit Shemesh and Beitar and other places. We do this for Rehovot. I've got somebody in Rehovot right now that we do, by Zoom. So yeah, sure. First of all, our website is www.allenfitness. That's one word, allenfitness.com. And you can always reach us through the website. Our email is info@allenfitness.com. And our number here at the clinic is 02651-8502. And I think the most important thing I can tell people is we treat you as an individual. Okay, there are certain people that are going to come in here and in 3 weeks are going to turn their life around, and certain people are going to take 3 months or 3 years, and it doesn't matter. We're going to give you the tools, we're going to help you with the motivation, we're going to give you a lot of material, and we're going to work with you one step at a time. And back to the education part, you know, we have to get into the schools. We have to get into the schools because that's where it all happens. And we get the right education in the schools, and we get the basics to people. And we tell them how important it is. Yes, eat this, and eat a lot of it, by the way. And no, stay away from this kind of food or make it a very occasional kind of food. We're already going to be way ahead of the game. And that's really what we have to do. And by the way, nobody, if they're eating properly, should ever be hungry. Okay? No one should be hungry. That's where diets fail. We don't want people to starve. We do a program like we have here in the Wellness Clinic, and we're going to give you lots and lots of food to eat. More food. You'll be eating more food on my program than you were eating before, and your weight will be going down. Your sugar will be going down. Your blood pressure will go down. Your sugar, your blood pressure, cholesterol. Okay, and we have, thank God, a lot of successes here, and we'd like to help other people.
Okay, Ellen, thank you so much for joining us on a busy Friday morning. I'm going to post all of your details, your website, and your article and everything on the sidebar on the day of the podcast, which will be on Wednesday. And you have a wonderful Shabbat. And thank you so much for sharing your wonderful knowledge with us. And I know people will want to contact you and get more information. And keep hailing all those people. Start one person at a time that you're doing. I know you're taking care of many, multiple people. I just I really appreciate the work that you're doing here in Jerusalem and throughout the world. So thank you for being a role model for all of us.
Thank you very much, Yudit, and Shabbat Shalom.
Okay. Bye, Shabbat Shalom. Thank you.
Okay, I'm in the dark now, but thank you for joining us, everybody. That was Wellness Wednesdays today. Please join us next week on Wednesday afternoon and have a happy, healthy week.